Welcome to Burnout in the Legal Profession in partnership with Community Legal Services. My name is Jesse Lyon.
I'm Zach Dodson.
Zach Dodson. We're going to talk through some misconceptions with burnout. I think for me that's a lot of what today's going to be about, because the burnout word happens a lot.
It's big.
Both in our counseling profession and in the legal profession, but I feel like it's one of those where it's been said so much that we've kind of lost the true definition of it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have to go over that, and then based on what burnout really is, an explanation of how we can actually fight it and how we can live our lives a little bit healthier, a little bit happier, a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that just a knowledge about what burnout actually is so beneficial in fighting it and sustaining balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we start, let's start with why it is that we're on this side of the screen and you're on that side of the screen. Zach, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, Zach Dodson. I'm licensed mental health counselor, qualified supervisor. I train a lot of young therapists. I'm also a practice owner, which is of HD counseling. But burnout is one of the things that I have dealt with for a very long time, personally and professionally.
I thought you were going to say practice owner, which is why I'm qualified to talk on burnout.
Yep.
Which is what burns you out the most?
Owning a practice, very much so, burns out. But there's a lot of things like vicarious trauma,
Yes.
Dealing with all of the things that you deal with from a mental health perspective, though. And also trying to make it so that my counselors that work for me, they don't burn out. We don't get paid enough to do the work that we do. And even if we did, we would probably want more, and then we would be back into burnout.
Yeah.
So you get about under my umbrella, 97, but probably about 50-something that are counselors that are directly underneath of me.
Sounds like one or two headaches.
Yes. And a lot of people that are training and very new.
Yeah, which I think is ironic for the counseling profession, but maybe also it makes sense. You'd think counselors would be really specifically adept at managing burnout, but I would say probably because there are so many tools that we know, we feel like we can get away with it, like not managing our own burnout. And so it is, like if you look at the research, like counseling is one of the top burnout professions, much like the legal profession.
Yeah. I think it's the two of us and nurses that are the top three.
I do believe it's top three. A quick Google search would give us the specifics. But yeah, you're in good company, my friends. My name is Jesse Lyon. I also own a counseling practice in Central Florida. We do a lot of work together. We co-founded the company Trauma Focused Hypnotherapy, which is really where we're getting a lot of the things that we're talking about today. We work specifically with PTSD and complex trauma survivors and how to kind of navigate through that mental health journey. And so a lot of those tools that we use to help people overcome their trauma are the same type of tools that are very effective for burnout. I do a lot of work on social media too, teaching just the general public about mental health, specifically dreams and hypnosis, under Lyon Mental Health. That's my last name. And so we're going to share just really a snippet of the most powerful, most impactful things on the topic of burnout, so you can have those at your disposal and hopefully live life a little bit easier.
And just as a little bit of a side note before we get started, burnout is fundamentally a hypnotic process. It is, we can get into that a little bit more.
I love how you say, like, before we get started.
Right.
Like, that's an hour lecture right there.
Right.
Can you give me, I love that you said that though. Can you give me just a little bit of like, what do you mean it's a hypnotic process? Mm-hmm. Like, what is hypnosis? How is it a hypnotic process? Good luck.
Right.
In a couple minutes.
The 2-minute long version of it. Hypnosis is when we fixate so much on one thing that one thing starts to take over. And our whole world becomes what is right in front of us. We call it the process of depotentiation, where we've depotentialed the space around us to make it so that our whole world is kind of just one thing. And burnout or stress is when we have depotentiated ourselves from all of the other things, and we're just focusing in on that stress prolonged exposure to that process and that stressor is going to be something that depotentiates us from anything else.
Absolutely.
And burns us out.
You may have heard the term tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And so tunnel vision is a great kind of example of that, or like flow state. Flow state's another great one. If you ever like play music and you get into that mode where just the world disappears around you and you're just fully entranced by that piece of music you're playing or listening to, that is kind of what we're talking about. Or sports. Sports are a great one. You ever burn the hot dogs on the grill because you were so invested in the game that's on the TV that you were entranced by the show that was being played out in front of you. And so that, I'm giving positive examples, but that can happen in a very negative light too. And it's almost easier because stress and negative and fight or flight responses and fear that comes from the difficult work that we all do is naturally engrossing, naturally entrancing. And so if you don't take a moment to get out of that, you burn out. Mm-hmm. So I agree very much with what you're saying. But maybe that's where we should start, is the definition.
Yeah, that's great.
How would you define burnout? Because I think we have something, and you're going to have these slides, but you took burnout, and even before we started recording, explained it in a way that I think adds even more to this.
Yeah, I going back to it being a hypnotic state, we're measuring burnout by the symptoms, of course, and all of those symptoms there on the slide. Maybe talk about that here in a minute, but it is fundamentally the long-term exposure of these stressors that need to get out of us. They need to be expelled. They need to be expressed, and they can't. And so they're internalized, and the unconscious mind and the body end up causing symptoms. Disengagement, cynicism, a reduction in the sense of personal accomplishment, productivity, all of those things. And it's like coffee. We take on stress like we use coffee. It's Monday morning. I gotta have a coffee. I have to have a coffee. I get fixated on that. I don't want to do anything else until I have that. But ultimately, like, coffee is not going to... The amount of coffee that I drink is not going to be good for us. It's like putting stress on a credit card. It's expensive. And the interest is the symptoms.
Yeah. I was going to say like going to the gym, muscles. I was thinking like muscles or rubber bands. It's like, it is good to stress ourselves and then recover from that stress because it increases our capacity. But if you're doing 100% and setting PRs every single time, you're going to watch as those PRs go down because your muscles haven't had time to recover. Mm-hmm. And we know that like one of the most important things for building muscle or like being in the gym is sleep. And so if you don't have that stress and then sleep, have that stress and then sleep, kind of like the waves on the ocean, you get this tidal wave that just, drowns you. And that's not what we want. Right. So striking this balance between stress, but not chronic stress, that leads us to unhealthy outcomes. That's really important.
And that kind of that last point there on the slide is, I think, important. It's there are some professions that you may know about that have an inherent amount of stress that comes with them. The inherentness of stress in the legal profession is different, but it is also a lot alike to the inherent stress of being a therapist. People don't come and pay me to come sit on my couch and talk to me about how great life is. People don't come to you to just to pay you to explain how whatever happened in their life was great and they're going to learn from it. There's a certain amount of stress that automatically comes with that. And if we're not resting from it and taking time away from it in an efficient way, because, again, a lot of times people will talk about things like self-care, and just because self-care works in one way for you does not mean that it's going to work for that same way for me. Also true. And then I've just allowed the chronic stress into my life.
Yeah. Makes me think about, like toxic positivity.
Yeah.
There's too much of that too, where There has to be an acknowledgement of the stress, and there has to be a movement through it. You can't just deny it and say that everything's good and like always have a positive mindset. Like there's limits to that too. And so just in the same way that we can be too far on the stress scale and get burnout, we can also be too far on the happy scale and enter into denial. It's like some things are broken and they need to be fixed, and we have to be honest about those things in order to fix them. But we also have to be honest about our capacity and say, hey, I'm going to still press towards this goal, but I need to reset. I think that's the important distinction.
And after reset, making sure that things have become more efficient.
Yes, yes.
In not letting some of those stressors affect us in the same way.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and I think that's what this is all about. Like, I don't want anyone to come away from this conversation thinking that they need to do more. In fact, I think what we're talking about is, let me take some stuff off your plate and let's be more effective and efficient about the things we're doing. That's going to be key. So let's talk specifically about the legal profession, the legal field, and what contributes to burnout for lawyers. There's a lot. What are some that stick out for you?
Vicarious trauma. That's the biggest one. I think that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Vicarious trauma, it's when there's somebody else's stressor, somebody else's trauma, some other system that's out there that I end up taking on as my own and internalizing when I had no business in the first place internalizing that.
How and why do you think that happens?
Because
it's fascinating.
An attorney, which may have heard this before, said to me one time in replaying a story from work, they said, I can explain this for you, but I can't understand it for you. He was talking about this big stressor and wanting so badly to convey something that was a very technical legal process to somebody that was just like, I just want resolution. And they had to say, well, these are the risks if we go for that resolution, but these are the risks if we go for this resolution. And the person was just like, I just want it to end. And it was, I just wanted to end, I just wanted to end, I just wanted it to end, and they were fixated on it. And then the attorney started stressing out. The attorney started to internalize the stressors of that situation through their empathy, through their relationship with their client, and it ended up becoming very stressful for them.
Yeah, well, I think lawyers specifically are incentivized to take on their clients' problems as if they're their own. Yeah. Because all the advertisements, all the stuff that you see is like, I'll fight for you like it's my own case, right? And so you want a really aggressive attorney to fight for you. And so some of that aggressiveness comes from, it's like I'm internalizing this situation as if it's my own, and I'm going to fight with the amount of vehemence, with the amount of assertiveness and aggression as if it was my own life that was being affected. And so I think there's almost like a natural incentive to take these things on as if they're our own. Yeah. I think for counselors too. But we're talking specifically about the legal profession. And so that's okay. I mean, I think there's a certain level of wisdom that comes from, almost being in the client's shoes. But we also have to recognize the consequences, the cost of doing that as well. And so having that time to take a step back and remind myself that I'm not going through this, I'm okay, is critical.
Well, we're back to the metaphor of coffee. It's great in the morning time when I need a boost and I'm running late and I need my brain to be stressed out and pay attention to my surroundings until it starts to wear off, and now I have to pay it back.
Yeah.
And I'm more tired. And then when I do the same thing over again the next day, I'm more tired overall, and more tired, and more tired, and more tired.
Well,
more stress and more stress.
Yeah, and let's be honest too. Like there's a lot of good mental health data about the correlation between high IQ and anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so let's be honest. Like everybody who's watching this, like all of us in this room, are individuals with advanced degrees that may be out of the ability for most other people to achieve. And so, without sounding like we're stroking egos, it's like, this is a very intelligent group of individuals. And so with that level of intelligence comes the loss of blissful ignorance. It's like we know too much. And so whether that's with your client or whether that's with, the world and the culture in general, the things that maybe go over other people's heads might not for you. And so the client's like, I just want it to be done, but you're seeing the 15 consequences of resolving this case rapidly that they're going to miss out on. And you know that those 15 consequences are going to come back and be like, well, why didn't we do this? And that client's going to be mad at you because they didn't know what they couldn't have known, but they expected you to know for them. That was intentionally confusing because that's how it feels.
I'm sure it does.
That's how it feels. So vicarious trauma is important. I think the other part of it is the urgent deadlines and the amount of hours and all of the different tasks that get put on our agenda. I talk about this a lot. Having some specific assertiveness about putting things on schedules and scheduling time for stuff is so important for burnout because it's very natural to hold all of those things that I need to get done inside of my head and to try and think about them all the time so I don't forget things, so I don't miss deadlines, so I don't become lax on those things that people are relying on me to do. But the problem with that is when I hold those things in my mind and I hold them in tension, that costs me a certain level of emotional energy. And so if I don't ever take a break to set these things down, I'm going to feel sort of a subconscious emotional drain. That's going to make me bitter, that's going to make me burn out, that's going to make me cynical, it's going to make me detached from life because I'm so attached to all these 100 things that are still on my plate that I don't have any capacity left to connect with what's right in front of me. This coffee that I'm having with a friend, my partner when I get back home, my child who wants to play with me. I think that's also really important to recognize.
And then you add on to it stuff that I can't put on my calendar, like somebody dropping something on my desk and saying this needs to be dealt with right now.
Yes.
Or even just the taxing nature of needing to be able to assess if this is really an emergency by understanding the facts rather than just understanding the emotion of the person that's coming to me. Like if somebody's like, oh, this is a big emergency, and then I come to find out that it's not, and it can be dealt with next week on my calendar, it's going to be really frustrating for me. And so all of that stuff, also adding to it is the stuff that I can't plan for.
It's a deep breath moment. So let's recognize some of the signs. We've talked about a lot of the ways that this can happen, but there's also a lot of things that you can look out for. And this is particularly important for me because the more burnt out we get, the more we detach from ourselves and our present reality. And so I think a lot of times people don't realize that they're burnt out because they are so burnt out. And so there's this weird sort of paradox or oxymoron, double negative, where the more burnt out we get, perhaps the less likely we are to recognize it. And so by talking about some of the things that your body and mind and emotions will do, will help you realize, whoa, I'm burnt out way more than I thought. I got a great example. I had an appointment to go to, and the doctor very standardly gave me the anxiety assessment. I've never told you this. No. They gave me the classic anxiety assessment, and I was like, oh, I'm a counselor. I do these all the time. I'll fill it out. Sure. It's typical. And I filled out the anxiety assessment, and I was like 100%. Yeah. I was maxed on this anxiety assessment. And I was like, I've given this at least 15 times this week. But I never stopped to think about how I might answer these questions.
But those are the keywords. I never stopped.
Take it away.
No, I just wanted to add that to it. I never stop. I never stop.
No. And so it blew my mind. I had to call my wife over and be like, look at this. This is crazy. And she was like, yeah, I've known that for a while. And I'm like, how did I miss it? Right? Of all the people. So it doesn't just happen to you. It doesn't just happen to those who don't know. It happens to all of us. We have to shut that stuff off so we can deal with the stress. Mm-hmm. We have to remember to turn it back on.
And the first thing here is that we pay attention to this. Well, I think that there's a thing that we do in our society about sleep and being tired. And we talk about being tired 100 times more than we do anything about being tired. And It's like a flashing red light like an airplane, like dashboard. I don't know what it's called.
The thing that I tape over in my car,
Exactly.
so I don't see that light anymore.
Exactly.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
But it's like our unconscious mind still wants us to talk about it and address the issue because we're talking about it on Monday mornings, aren't we?
Yep.
We're talking about how tired I am, and I'm tired because on Monday morning it already started off with a crisis, or three, and
It's kind of the standard answer too, right? Hey, morning, Zach. How are you? Just a little tired.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And we don't pay attention back to what we're doing about it. I would love if the
Right.
conversation at the water cooler would go from how tired I am and what I'm doing to address in an unhealthy way that tiredness to bragging about things that we can do to make our sleep more efficient. I love if that conversation could be switched.
But then I'd look at you as a jerk.
Right. I would feel like one.
Yeah. Oh man, I got 9 hours last night. Like, I got something to do. I'll see you later.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why we don't talk about it as much is because
Culture.
Yeah, the culture of being proud about being tired, and it affects me.
Badge of honor.
Yeah, it affects
Yeah.
me. I'm in that culture.
Yeah, same. Sleep disturbance is huge. There's also some other ones too, like headaches and muscle pain. Digestive issues is huge, which if I had a nickel for every lawyer who told me they have stomach problems, could probably close the shop. Those are important. Like your body is trying to talk to you, and your physical system is supposed to operate in a certain way. And if it is burnt out and stressed, it's not going to operate efficiently. And so you can start to notice some of those things: headaches, muscle tension, tummy aches. I say with a laugh, but it's true. It's true. But maybe, Zach, you could tell me some about these emotional indicators. What do you notice when someone's burnt out, how they start to behave emotionally different?
Mindlessly. I think it starts off with that right away. When we are burnt out and feeling all of those symptoms, we end up becoming mindless about our emotions. It's a great way to skip and detach and from our bodies, and it's the number one way that our bodies and our unconscious mind give us messages about what's going on inside.
Yeah.
And so we become a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more mindless about what's going on emotionally, to where it just is covered up usually by anger or frustration or something along those lines that in any other context, this thing probably wouldn't have made me angry. It wouldn't have done anything. I would have just been like,
Yeah.
okay. But anger is the great displacement emotion.
Yeah. It's a protective emotion.
Yeah. And
Anger starts to show up when we need to be emotionally protected, and that's usually a big sign of burnout. Yeah.
And so there's a direct correlation between the quickness that we either become numb or we become angry.
Yeah.
That are great predictors of burnout.
Yeah, I mean, I think you all might find this interesting. One of the topics that I work with quite a bit is called dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personalities. And a lot of times we'll see that type of situation originate from somebody who's experienced very intense, complex trauma in childhood. And so kind of an extreme example of this would be, I'm so burnt out, I'm so overstressed, I'm so traumatized, to where my brain starts to create different parts of myself and they all operate independently. And so to the point where they're distinct identities and personalities that almost don't interact with each other. Even worse, they come into conflict with each other. And I build feelings of inadequacy, failure, resentment toward these parts of myself. And so what I think is so fascinating, like studying the way that that develops and working with it personally as a counselor, you can start to see those things in smaller ways begin to develop with that burnout and stress.
Yep, absolutely.
Like there's a work persona of me, there's a party persona of me, there's a drinking persona of me, there's a family persona of me, and I get frustrated between each of them, and I'm disconnected from all of them, and I don't know who I am.
And those, just to be clear, those are to protect us.
That's a defense mechanism.
When we're not
Yes.
addressing, especially with burnout, when we're not addressing those dissociations, then what it ends up happening is I have just as a very simple example, I have my work self and I have my home self. My work self could be the guy that's a go-getter, that is tough, that is going to be the straight shooter, that's going to be the person that gets the job done, and then I want to be soft at home and have fun at home. And then what we see is as burnout progresses, they start unconsciously mixing again. And so we start then going back to treating our partner like we treat the other attorney at the office. And I hear that they don't like that.
They sure tell me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things that you can really look for is if people start complaining about how you are at home or with friends or some other world that you have, and that becomes more of the attorney version of you, or vice versa.
Yeah. It might also be important to add, I think that burnout can be so chronic and so systemic for an individual that they start to develop their identity around it.
Yep.
And so I've also seen it be the reverse. And we're going to get into identity and personality here in a minute. But I think it's important for this space to describe that I've met with individuals whose partners will be frustrated with them, how they start to show up at home because they start to get better. And so I've had individuals that I work with and they start to heal. And then their partner's like, you're not the same.
Yeah.
I don't like this. You're standing up for yourself. You're connected with this thing.
Emotions are scary.
They'll have an opinion about where they want to go for dinner. And they're like, this isn't like you. Why are you being so picky about dinner? It's like, well, before they were so burnt out, they didn't even taste the food. It didn't matter to them.
Didn't care.
And so now chronic burnout and fatigue was so a part of their personality that they got into a relationship and based their relationship off this identity of who they are. And now that they're changing it and getting better, that person doesn't like who they become. That happens a lot more than I think people would like to admit. And so just to say, just because your partner's complaining about how you're showing up at home doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
Yeah.
Just notice these changes. It may mean you're getting worse. It may mean you're getting better. It's an important time to get curious and ask that question, what am I feeling?
It's an indicator.
Indicator, yeah. Well, before we run out of time, we should probably move on to some behavioral indicators real quick, and burnout versus normal stress. What behaviors do you kind of see?
I think that the biggest one is going to be the self-medication.
That's a very nice way to put it. I was going to say addiction.
Yeah.
But self-medication is a much kinder way to say the same thing.
Yeah, I think that self-medication is something that kind of creeps its way in a really destructive way. Going back to the coffee metaphor, I have to detox. I have to detox.
Sorry.
Yeah, right.
So I take a sip.
Because the detox gives me an example or a space to understand how much I was self-medicating to do something that it isn't as authentic as I'd like it to be. And it creeps into where I'm having 600 milligrams of caffeine a day, and not even thinking about it. Yeah. Not even thinking about it. But that can happen with anything, whether that be alcohol, drugs, but also
food.
Behaviors. Food. Yeah,
Food's
exactly.
Big. Sugar.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Craving sugary drinks, craving processed foods. There's great research to show that when we are tired and stressed, our behaviors change dramatically towards picking high-calorie processed foods.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research on how we always used to talk about the energy that we get from sugar, especially like kids. And one of the things that we see is that it's not actually just actual energy; it's dopamine. And the research is leaning more towards an understanding of sugar as it creates dopamine that makes me feel better about myself. So then, therefore, I have more energy. And so when I'm feeling down, I absolutely going to eat that donut in the company lounge.
Well, and it's so fascinating too, and I'm glad that you brought up the idea of dopamine, because the research on dopamine shows that dopamine is the motivator chemical. So not only does it make you feel good, but dopamine is like integrally a part of the motivation process. You know, dopamine spikes its highest right before the completion of a big task.
Yep.
And so it builds all this way to propel you toward task completion. And so when you're so burnt out that you can't even feel a moment of happiness and success, you can't appreciate yourself, and you can't feel good about the things you've accomplished, you're just moving on right to the next task, sugar can become a huge supplemental factor for the lack of dopamine that you experience in the brain. And I know that I'm describing some people who are watching this on the other side of the screen, because I know that I'm describing myself in many ways too. And so it's just important, like, if you're craving that stuff and like sugar's becoming something, alcohol's becoming something, you know, I'm sure we can't say it in this recording, but other sort of stimulants that people will take, legal and illegal, it's a huge sign of a greater emotional problem.
Yeah.
And I think it gives me a lot of compassion, empathy for it.
And then what happens over the course of time as self-medicating more and more and more and more is that dopamine and cortisol get a really dysfunctional, codependent relationship, that I can't have my dopamine unless I have my cortisol, which is one of the stress hormones.
Yeah.
And then I can't have my cortisol without the dopamine, and then they come together, and that's the foundation for burnout.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else to say, burnout versus normal stress?
Yeah.
I mean, would you have any good way? I think we're in kind of a diagnostic piece of this lecture. How do I know if it's just normal stress?
Yeah, I like the words, and you can look them up later. I like the words distress versus eustress, and
that's fun.
To separate the normal stress and burnout. Distress is a stress that doesn't have some sort of reward for it, some sort of benefit. And eustress is something that is intentionally done for that reward.
And distress sounds like torment.
Right, it's like
torture.
Distress is like breaking a leg. If I break my leg, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, like, I don't know, maybe somebody has said this, but I think it'd be very rare for somebody to be like, yeah, I really wanted to have that experience, so I broke my leg in order to make it so that I would have that new experience.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
And to the person that said, I like school, you don't like school.
You called a lot of people out just now.
You like the reward of school, whether that be I get the reward of knowing more, and that gives me power. I get the reward of having a credential, or I get the reward of something that we put ourselves underneath a certain level of stress in order to get some sort of attained thing afterwards.
Being accepted by my peers.
Yeah, and we get these conflated sometimes, that distress and eustress can be the same thing, and they're really not. And so burnout happens when there's that chronic experience of distress or eustress, but it's not addressed in a healthy way.
I think that's pivotal. And you're making me think quite a bit as you explain that, how much mindset plays a huge role in this.
Absolutely.
I think I see certain individuals being much more burnout proof than other individuals. And for me, when I dig into this and try and understand why are some people more resilient to burnout and stress than others, it comes down to mindset for me. When I feel like the world is happening to me and I'm being distressed, we're going to burn out very quickly.
Yep.
In fact, it might not take much stress at all to cause me to burn out. But I look at other individuals and they have this mindset where it's like, these are all the obstacles and challenges that I have chosen for my life. You know, I see this, I mean, with counselors, and with lawyers too, you know, like if I see myself being oppressed, that's going to burn me out very fast. But if I see it as like, hey, this is the career that I chose. I'm proud of my choices. I'm proud of how I moved through these things. And at any time, I could make another choice. But for now, I am choosing to go through this difficult time because I am looking for this reward. And so at no point do they feel like the world is happening to them. It's like I'm choosing to engage in this fight of school, of, being being in this profession, or, fighting for that partner position, because that's something that I want. It's not something that I'm being forced into. And that mindset distinction makes such a dramatic difference in how quickly someone burns out.
Yeah. If that wasn't a principle, nobody would finish law school. Nobody would do it. And because the people that do it and that enjoy that process as much as they can enjoy it are going to be people that see that goal. And they see that space of and it's intentional.
Yeah.
And they have a mindset of intentionality about what they need to do in order to get to that place, sometimes no matter how difficult it is.
Yeah, and perhaps there's a lecture in the future about the difference between happiness and joy, or just what happiness is.
Yeah.
Because there's some great research about those people who pursue happiness directly tend to not find it. Mm-hmm. But those people who pursue purpose and meaning, things that are really significant to them, find happiness along the way. So it's funny, like when happiness is a primary goal, it's often elusive. But when your primary goals are challenges and purpose and meaning in your life, happiness, it can't be taken away from you. Mm-hmm. And it's burnout proof. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some prevention then.
Let's get practical.
Sound good? There's things on the slide, but Zach, from your personal experience, and maybe working with your clients, when somebody comes in and they're burnt out, what do you tell them to do?
Be intentional and present and grounded as a foundational point to that.
No, that's great.
I want there to be more intention.
I think you're going to have to unpack that for me, though.
The person that is burnt out, it feels like they are on a swivel and they're spinning and they're all over the place and they have no control. And I want to make them a little bit more selfish. I want them to take control. I want them to be able to be in such a mindset that, like you were saying, it's like, this is happening to me. I want to get them to the point of, I am doing this.
Yeah.
I'm choosing. I think that'd be the biggest fundamental idea, cognitive idea, where I would want them to be.
Yeah, and it makes me cringe a little bit when I hear therapists say it, though I know the intention behind it is good. There's this very classic therapist saying of you're shoulding all over yourself.
Yeah.
It's like this little joke about how you shouldn't say should, right? Which there, on purpose, is the oxymoron of you shouldn't say should.
Right.
But there's an intention behind it that I appreciate. So let me actually share the part that makes any difference. Should, when we start to say should, we take away our personal choice.
Yep.
You can want or you cannot want. There are things that are healthy for you and unhealthy for you, but feeling like I should, and when I notice that word should starting to introduce itself into my vocabulary, it can be a moment of awareness for me that I have lost my personal choice in this matter. I'm operating out of what I should and shouldn't, not what I want and don't want. Now, the ideal situation is what I should do is also what I want to do. But I think sometimes those things can shift. And the thing that I feel like I should do may not actually be what's good for me. I shouldn't actually do it. But it's the pressure that's being put on me by clients or peers or family.
And just to add to that, it's the reason why I think is because the focus becomes about the too much about the thing that will get me that end goal rather than the actual end goal. And so a lot of times we'll be working with clients and it's like, yes, if you would like to graduate from law school, then you should do these things.
Yes.
And you should. You should. But it's always if you would like to have this done.
If you want.
And then it becomes more about the class, the individual paper, the individual task. And I just keep hypnotizing myself on I should do this and I should do this and I should do this, I should do this, I should do this, instead of where am I going?
Well, and I'll take a moment to highlight you for a minute because your personality is exceptionally good at this.
Oh, yeah?
So much so that it frustrates others. So I'll build you up to bring you down. Don't worry.
Great.
But one of the things that you've told me and I've witnessed people get frustrated with you is as soon as you don't want to do something,
Yeah, oh, and I'm done.
you're done.
Yeah.
Done. I'm dropping it. Right? And people are like, no, you should complete it. It's like, yeah, there you go. Why should I? It's and
But I don't want to.
right, you don't want to. But the reason that you don't want to is your brain works so fast and you are very intelligent to where you understand that when this thing won't help us accomplish the goal, I'm going to drop it and move on to something that will help us accomplish the goal. And people are like, no, you have to wrap it up. It's like wasted time. I have a limited time here to do this thing. I have limited resources. I don't want to do it. This is going to be better. I want to do this. And people will struggle to pivot that quickly with you. But I think it is one of your greatest skills. And so I just want to share that because I do think it's a good real life case example to help other people think, man, how much do I do that? How much do I get frustrated with that, with myself, with others? Maybe it's okay to just be like, this isn't bringing me the joy or the goal that I want for myself. So time to move on. I mean, how often do we hold on to stuff that just doesn't serve us anymore?
Long enough. Where all that is great too is my accountant has yelled at me on many occasions.
About what?
The fact that I didn't complete something that I was supposed to complete.
Oh, paperwork?
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
Or told him about another business that I started until a week before taxes are due. And
Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He gets mad about that.
Well, he wants your taxes to be filed on time.
Which they never are. So there's a benefit to this, but the humor behind it is also like there is a balance there.
There is a balance. Sometimes we have to do things we don't want.
Yeah, and that mindset behind it is what's key. If
Yes.
we can really, really highlight that is I very much fall too far on the side of I'm not doing this if I'm not going to be having fun. There's a lot of privilege there that I very much understand.
Sure.
Conversely, there are some things that I need to do that are not fun.
Right.
Having a balance with that is going to be the best way, and an intention, a thought, a cognition about where this task lands on that spectrum is going to be one of the best things that you can do about staving off the effects of burnout.
Absolutely. Well, and even that being true, I think the model that you're presenting, or just using you again as a case example, is there's also humility in that. Like when it's like, okay, well, yeah, I should have done that. There's humility in it, and there's not a moment where you're really beating yourself up for it, or using shame to motivate. It's like maybe there's internal, but externally, I do see you doing that and working on that where it's like, I'm not going to sit here and beat myself up for this and feel bad about it. I have to move forward.
Yeah.
Maybe you present that on the outside and there's still struggles on the inside because I know there is for me too.
Yeah.
But I think that's a huge part of this burnout conversation because that was mentioned on previous slides. It's important. Yeah.
And as a wonderful coach taught me when the effectiveness of this is having a present moment understanding of how expensive a reprioritization is in our lives. It's very expensive when it comes to mindset, and it takes a lot of energy for us to be in a space to where we say I need to pivot, and oftentimes it's just easier, especially when we're in burnout, to just say, well, I just want to complete the task because then at least I'll get a little bit of dopamine. And so,
good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Making sure that you are bringing intention and awareness to that is going to be really, really helpful.
Yeah, agreed. There's a lot of good stuff on that slide. Read those pieces on the slide. I think the foundational piece that we're talking about here is important to understand some of these key points. Time management and prioritization. I think the most important thing about all of this is getting the mindset down and really understanding the way to think about your work-life stress. These bullet points are really great, and I think that you can Google a lot of them. I think we're going to talk a little bit less about these slides and go through the things that I think you need to be making specific and assertive decisions on how to prevent burnout for you, because time management for Zach is going to look different than time management for Jesse. And so rather than telling you what to do, I want to give you some thoughts and ideas and some topics that you should be paying attention to. Does that sound fair?
Absolutely. And it's the how to It's the why to rather than the what to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So time management prioritization is important. Get yourself a schedule, get things out of your head. The more stuff that you have to sort of process and think about, the less you're going to have emotional space or energy to really be engaged emotionally in the thing that's happening in front of you, whether that's friends or work or whatever. Maybe before we move on, do you have one thing that you've found be the most impactful for you on this topic?
Yeah, it's the well. I think that it's twofold, but the first one is making sure that your unconscious mind trusts you, and it's like setting a reminder. Like it's so important to when we set reminders to follow up with that reminder. And because as soon as we don't, it becomes something that we're carrying.
Sounds like procrastination.
Yeah, and so anything that you can do to make it so that you write something down, you record a note, you do something along those lines to say, I'm not going to be dealing with this right now, but still having built the trust that you are going to come back to it, and the coming back to it. And having that trust is the best thing that you can do as far as time management goes.
Yeah, yeah. Delegation is important. I'll say that really briefly. I'll also say on time, off time is important. Like I don't care even if it's just a little bit of time. Like sometimes life gets stressful, but even if it's just a little bit, you've got 30 minutes or an hour at the end of the day before you go to bed that is just for you. Showing yourself, communicating to your mind and your emotions that this is a time that is just for me communicates value in identity and self-esteem. And so if you're not doing that, you're subconsciously, or really without intending to, communicating to yourself that I come last.
Yep.
And that can't be the foundation. So I don't care what you do or how you do it. Maybe I do a little bit, but not really. As long as you're doing that, that's what's important. Find a way that works, that's authentic and congruent to you to do some of these things.
Well, and this is a good description for the next couple of slides, but one question that's asked of me, and I'm sure it's asked of you a lot too, is when people find out, especially in social settings, like kid stuff, is the question like, how do you not take your work home? And so I think that our individual answers for that is the fundamental answer to the next couple of slides too. I don't know how. What do you say when somebody's just like, I could never do that. I could never do what you do, and I would have a hard time taking my work home. How is it that you can not take your work home?
Well, so for me, right, what that communicates is, oh, Jesse, you should be more stressed. It's giving me this suggestion that my job is really, really hard. And so depending on how nice I have to play in that situation,
Sure.
If I don't have to play nice in that situation, I'll say, yeah, that's because I'm, me, or I'm amazing, or I'm better. And so I need that reinforcement. Like if you're going to give me some garbage about how I should be stressed more in my life, which is a really ridiculous thing to say, then I'm going to give you some garbage back that's like, well, yeah, that's because I'm better than everybody else.
Right.
Do I actually mean that? No. I mean, I think I have some skills and abilities, and so do you. But I need that suggestion for myself.
My favorite blow-off is, well, that's because I'm at home. And they're always confused, and I'm just like, well, I'm not at work, so I'm not doing work, I'm at home. And when I'm at home, I'm at home. And they're just like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm just like, well, that's how I don't take my work home. It's like, I don't invite my clients to my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like,
If they're going to say something silly, then they're going to say something silly.
But that's not the...
But I think what you're communicating is that it's really important to recognize the emotions that are being communicated behind those things. I'm not going to take that with me.
I don't want to.
No.
I don't want to. And that is important for time management, and it's the same mindset behind time management, and especially the next couple slides too.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
the importance of breaks and downtime. I mean, I think it goes hand in hand. Schedule it. Make sure it happens. Yeah, I think it's easy to skip over those things. There will always be the next disaster or calamity. And so if you're waiting, and this is, I think, the problem that I see most people have, if you're waiting for the right time to take a break, it will never happen, I promise you.
Yeah.
But if you schedule, it's like, hey, come whatever, this is my time off, right? I'm going to take this week. I'm going to let things burn down. I'm going to let things blow up. I'm going to trust my team to do the best that they can with whatever it is, so that way I can have this break. And so don't wait for the right time, just put it on the calendar.
Plan for breaks.
Because one of the things that we'll do the most is procrastinate about taking those breaks. And so we get into this cycle. And the more burnt out you get, the less likely you are to really trust that you can actually take a break, because the less objective you are about seeing the truth of the situation that you're in. So just make it happen. I just got to do it. Got to do it.
Plan downtime.
Yeah. What about recovery? Because we've talked about some things to help, but what if I'm already in a terribly burnt out state? What do I do?
There's so much there. And maybe we do another one of these just on burnout recovery.
Because it is a whole separate topic.
It is. It really is. But the first thing is going to be, again, it comes back to intention. Burnout is because of faulty systems, and this faulty systems propagating a traumatic response, a stress response. And so the first thing in stress management is going to be bringing intention to those systems. Always start with the systems. Is this system adding to the burnout, or is this system helping prevent future burnout?
When you say systems, are you talking about my internal system, or are you talking about the systems I've put in place at the office?
Both.
Okay.
Very much both. I need to bring intention and consciousness to what is everything from what is my routine, my personal routine in preparing for work, as well as like what are the systems that I'm a part of, like the cooler talk at work. Who's that person that's just so toxic? What are the things that I do around that person that's so toxic to help propagate that toxicity in my life?
Or the management system. Like
Exactly.
if every decision has to funnel through you, that's not a sustainable system.
No.
And it may be a greater indicator of, do I really trust my team? Because if you have people on your team that you're keeping around because you feel the stress and like you owe them or you have to keep them around, you don't want them to fail, that's you taking on extra stress and burnout. That's not going to lead to a successful team. It's like if someone's not working, you may have to, even though it's difficult, just let them go. But not everything can funnel through you. That's just not sustainable. And so internal systems, mindset, identity, as well as external systems, management, and community. Like what's the culture inside the company?
And the systems can be even as simple as like physical systems. Like, what is your chair like at the office?
Oh man, good point.
It's reassessing all of those symptoms that are either adding to the burnout and the stress or taking away from the burnout and stress.
I'm really bad at setting up my office for my convenience.
Absolutely.
It's just like whatever's in there is just how I always leave it. And it's like I don't ever stop and like slow down to take a moment, being like, is this really set up optimally for me? So important. Do some breathing, do some meditation, set up your system well. We'll move on from that. Let's talk, just kind of at the tail end of this, let's talk a little bit about the role that relationships play.
Yeah. Well, kind of going back to those systems, is we have internal, external, and multiple different types of external relationship systems.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is create systems of relationships that are going to help support us rather than take something from us. And so think about this from even an accounting perspective. Is this something that's adding to both profitability of my energy, or is this an expense? And I think that we mix those up a lot.
And I'll even argue on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've had relationships in my life that are saying, Jesse, you're burning out. Jesse, you're burning out. And I'm like, you're so annoying. I'm cutting you out. But they were right.
Yeah.
And so, I think this is where talking with somebody who does have some experience in these things, like a professional counselor or like a mentor or like somebody who's been through it and that you really admire the way that they balance their life, can be so incredibly helpful, because just because somebody is annoying you doesn't mean that they're the right person to cut out necessarily.
Right.
Because I do know for me, some of the people that have told me to slow down have been the most annoying. They were right, but I was the most likely to cut them out because I was like, I don't want to be told to slow down.
Yeah.
I want to continue to burn out.
Well, and they're beneficial for two very different and distinct reasons. But
Yeah.
I think that counselors and coaches are great resources for you. Is that if you don't have a counselor for the emotional side of things and a coach for the business and productivity side of things, I think you should definitely think about that as far as a support network, because they'll get to know you so well and build a rapport to give you the feedback that you need in order to make it so that you can see things prior to needing to deal with the symptoms.
And that is so valuable.
Yeah.
Fixing things before they fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Think about how this develops for you. I think on this last slide before we kind of wrap up, I think having a bit of a timeline and a history for yourself and like seeing the progression of your burnout is really important. And a lot of times, maybe a little bit of a smirk on my face as I say it, the classic counselor question of, well, tell me about your childhood.
Yeah.
It is kind of a cliche and a trope, but at the same time, we start to learn those ways of stress management from those individuals who modeled stress for us first. And so think about how it's progressed in your life. Look at the timeline. You'll get some valuable insights as to how this has been for you and what steps you need to take, because you'll start to see your pattern. We as human beings are pattern recognition machines. And so start to look at your pattern. Be like, instead of waiting till the wheels fall all the way off, I can see my pattern start to develop here. And I can start to make choices at that moment before I totally fall apart at this moment.
I like two questions here. When was the last time you felt like this? And when was the first time you felt like this? Ooh. As far as recognizing where those patterns are in your life.
Helpful counselor questions.
Yeah. When was the last time and when was the first time that you felt like that? Though your unconscious mind probably will take you right back to when you've experienced this pattern before.
Very true. Very true. Well, and with that, we've included some other things, links to check out for the resources. We also have a bunch of resources through the company that we co-founded, Trauma-Focused Hypnotherapy. If you're looking for some ways to kind of hack your subconscious mind and help with burnout, we'd love to be there for you. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.